I know that you know that this is Ringo Starr. Song called Photograph. And it was on this day, August the 28th, back in 2012, that Ringo Starr, according to Celebrity Net Worth, was named the world's richest drummer with an estimated fortune of $300 million. Now, when you think of drummers in music, you probably also think of Phil Collins, who was ranked second with $250 million by way of estimated fortune, according to Celebrity Net Worth back in 2012. I've got a full top 5 list for you. It sounds like a little bit of a fun trivia question, but we have so much to get into. I think I'll save the trivia for a little bit. The other 3 famous drummers, richest according to Celebrity Net Worth, we'll get to them a little bit later this hour in the show. And no, one of them is not Neil Peart, the late, great, and in my opinion, best ever drummer from the greatest rock band of all time, Rush. Good Thursday morning. We are at the day before the long Labor Day weekend coming up, final weekend of summer. Yes, kids, it's true. You're going back to school next week. As we get into the show today, just a couple of reflections from yesterday's show. And just before those, how about that stroke of managerial genius by John Schneider and the Toronto Blue Jays last night? He brings Hoffman back out for a save of a comeback win for the Blue Jays a day after Hoffman blew a save and cost the Jays a game. I loved the move by the manager, and what a comeback by the Blue Jays. Yesterday's show featured a couple of conversations, one around that LCBO theft in Kitchener and the Premier's comments on it, and another around a video circulating that alleges that there are people shooting off guns in wooded areas, including Muskoka, very not only dangerously but disrespectfully to the natural area where they are firing off these guns. And I want to take a moment because Dylan called the show yesterday when we were talking about this video that's circulating online and said, be careful, even with videos that we see today, because AI has made so much so possible. And that's such a good reminder in all of this. I shudder to think at the why if these videos are faked. But there are still questions, even if this particular video is authentic, which to me it appears to be. But look, it's a beautiful area, and you can say it's in Muskoka, but I don't know. I would like to independently verify that fact, and all of the other garbage that was left around could have been by the people playing with guns, could have been from somebody else entirely. And the narrator in this particular video does say they were at it again, indicating that this is a recurring problem. And that makes me think that perhaps, just perhaps, there would be some sort of police report, of which I could find none. Even just a statement warning people about the dangers of randomly discharging machine guns in a wooded area. Like, that needs to be a reminder. But anyway, I just think we should be cautious around this. There are some boxes still to be checked with regard to that video. When it comes to the video that we've all seen and is absolutely verified, 6 people robbing an LCBO store in South Kitchener. Police investigating. The Premier calls our regional police chief, Mark Crowell, a champion, loves the work that our Waterloo Regional Police Service does and is doing. But one of the comments, well, and it wasn't just one, it's a comment that has appeared several times. And you need to check yourself on stuff like this, because it's true that the people robbing the LCBO store are not white, but the comments and the narrative that this is somehow people who have just come to Canada and decide that what they want to do is rob liquor stores. You, sirs and madams, are going directly to Jackwagon jail. There is no passing go. There is no collecting 200. You're in Jackwagon jail, because if you watch the video and you use that thing that's in between your ears, I know a lot of us have a hard time at times using our brains, but you look at the age of the individuals in the video, and it's entirely possible that they were actually born right here. I don't know where you get, other than the fact that they're not white, you would get the idea that they suddenly just arrived in Canada, got dropped off at Pearson Airport, and then came to Kitchener to rob a liquor store. Come on with your coming on. Let's just put an end to that, okay? And for those comments, you are now directly in jackwagon jail. All right, let's get your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. Number 1, 4 people arrested following a shooting at a Kitchener motel. It happened yesterday afternoon near Weber and Kinsey, sending a 36-year-old man to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Police believe this was a targeted shooting, and the investigation continues. Number 2, a Kitchener man facing charges after a series of break-ins at places of worship. Police say property was specifically targeted during 3 break-ins at places of worship dating back to May. A 37-year-old man has been arrested and charged with 3 counts of break and enter. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, people in Stratford being asked to stay on the lookout as 5 of the city's 6 iconic swans remain at large. No, they didn't rob a liquor store. They just kind of disappeared. One of the birds has been recovered from a stormwater retention pond in the city's north end. But the missing birds started to stir up a search a couple of weeks ago. The city doesn't use tracking devices on the birds, and their wings were all in working order. So it's possible the swans just said, you know what? I've had enough of the cost of living in Stratford. I'm out, baby. I'm going further west where the living is cheaper and the water's warmer. I don't know. But hey, let's watch out for those swans. Number 4 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, police seeking your help in identifying a suspect involved in a collision which left a motorcyclist with serious injuries in Guelph-Aramasa Township. OPP say officers responded to the scene of a collision involving a white sedan, that's important here, a white sedan and a motorcycle at the intersection of Wellington Road 51 and Wellington Road 39 yesterday morning around 11:15. OPP say first responders found the motorcyclist on the ground. He was then taken to a trauma center for treatment. Investigators say the white sedan fled the scene, headed towards Eris on Wellington Road 51. That's what and who you can be looking out for. As my buddy Noel says, maybe you could do a segment on your show about watching out for bikers. Listen, we're out there. We've been out there for a lot of months now. Come on. Let's watch out for those people on 2 wheels as well. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, authorities say a mass Russian drone and missile attack on Ukraine's capital early this morning has killed at least 17 people and wounded 48. This is the first major combined attack on Kyiv since U.S. President Donald Trump met Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier this month to discuss ending the 3-year war in Ukraine. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Thursday morning. You know what comes next, right? It's your morning wake-up call. Wakey, wakey. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I've got my trusty piece of paper because I still learn that way. I like to write things down. I got 10 things on it that we need to get to, along with our guests and other conversations on the show today. And not one of those 10 things is the trivia question about the richest drummers in the world. That was a random 11th I decided to throw in. So I just say that by way of reminder. I prepare. I try really hard. I want to bring you the best show possible every day. But I also recognize and will continue to commit to this being our show. We collectively come together for conversations every day. And it sure as heck ain't always about me. I bring some ideas. You bring ideas too. And here on the morning wake-up call, I'm setting aside my 11 points to make during the show at some point today because Paul is on the phone with us already, and he warned me yesterday. He's got a wake-up call for us today. Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. How you doing today?
I'm great. I'm just great.
Yeah. Listen, the other day, my son, funny thing, named Mike, but we didn't name him after you.
Are you sure about that? Because that would have been a great thing.
Oh, it would have been, except you're not much older than him, so that wouldn't have worked.
All right.
Listen, he got a bill the other day from the Halliburton Highlands Medical Center, and Not a huge amount, but he got this bill from them. It seems back in July, he was riding his ATV along Highway 35. He was on the shoulder, which is perfectly legal in that area. He was riding down the shoulder on his ATV. He was actually below the legal speed limit for ATVs, and there is one. He hit a soft spot on the shoulder, which caused his ATV to flip off the road and crash into the rocks at the side of the road.
So let me guess, the bill is for the transportation in the ambulance, right?
Yep. Good Samaritan called the ambulance, and he was taken by ambulance to the hospital, and everything checked out okay. But he got the bill. My question is, we had a little incident in Lindsay where somebody ended up taking an ambulance to a local hospital and then an air ambulance into Toronto, to a Toronto hospital. Now, I think an air ambulance is going to be a lot more. To be quite honest, my son's bill was, a taxi would have probably cost him just as much. But for an air ambulance, who do you think is going to be paying the bill for the criminal who had to be transported to the hospital and then by air ambulance into Toronto? Who do you think is going to be picking up that bill? Are they going to be sending him the bill for his portion of it, or are the taxpayers going to be on the hook for that guy's transportation by ambulance and then by air ambulance?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And I confess, I've got to do a little more work here in this whole idea that one pays for ambulance transportation to a hospital, because that's where I knew the story was going. And I admit I don't fully know the why. So I'm going to work on that. And I understand why you asked the question, because that instance in Lindsay, of course, was a man who had broken into somebody else's home, was so injured that he needed transportation to hospital by ambulance and then air ambulance transportation to Toronto. If Paul's son has to pay his ambulance transportation, who pays that ambulance transportation? I would like to think that the individual who required the ambulance, but I also have to figure out more about the parameters when one is charged for an ambulance ride. There's a little wake-up call getting us thinking this morning on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. This is a busy show for busy people. So no matter how busy you are, we will reward the time you invest in this show by getting you the information and hopefully a little bit of entertainment along the way that you need. And the minute we begin our show every day, our phone lines are open so that you can get involved in the conversation. 519-570-2545. Star 570 and 1-800-570-5715. Terry, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. That thing about the Swans that you talked about in your top five.
Yes, sir.
One day last week, I'm not sure which day, I think it might have been Tuesday or Wednesday, I was traveling on the 401 westbound, just where the Nith River Hill is, just on top of that hill going westbound.
Mm-hmm.
I saw there was a swan right in the middle of the lane.
Oh, no.
Yeah, in the right lane, and everybody just kind of slowed down, put their hazard, their four-ways on. And then there was a couple other swans in the ditch area on the right shoulder part of the highway. So, but then the swan that was in the middle of the road kind of wandered back, back into the ditch, so it never got hit. But I thought it was kind of weird. But I did come upon that story a couple of days ago, and about the missing swans in Stratford, because I found it online, and I thought, oh my God, I wonder if that's those swans that I saw in the 401. So if those things can travel from Stratford down there in their air, I'm just wondering that they're probably far gone. And if they're wandering around highways, I don't know if they're going to have good luck. Like they're going to get hit.
There's no question that they would, Terry, I would think. And hopefully all of those vehicles wisely and carefully and courteously slowing down maybe made the call to the proper authorities so that those swans, in particular, that Terry saw, could have been rescued before tragedy was the result of that. So let's hope for the best in that regard. Speaking of highways, I'll just go to one of the notes that I made. for the show today, and that is word from Ontario Premier Doug Ford yesterday, suggesting that Highway 413 is days away. In days, Highway 413 will get started. That's the new 400 series highway that will link Highway 400 in Vaughan to the 401 in Mississauga. So Highway 413 just days away from getting started. We don't really have a construction timeline nor a cost on that yet. However, I couldn't help but notice that the Premier says Highway 413 will start in the next couple of days. How many more days till Highway 7 starts? Mr. Premier, sir, I know you're busy. I know you've got a lot going on. You got 413, you got tunnels, you got housing to build, but come on with your coming on. How about some Highway 7, huh? I would like a Highway 7. Well, I would. Just if only because it's been promised for decades. Anyway, 413 starts in days. Highway 7, maybe someday. We don't really know for sure. Another quick note before I get you to the 570 News Center for an update, and that is tomorrow is Friday. That means all request on the show. You want to hear a little bit of a song that you really like? By all means, request it. But there are parameters. There are rules tomorrow. Our theme for All Request Friday tomorrow is songs about work or that make you think about work, because it's the Labor Day weekend, don't you know? So your favorite workin' songs by request on our All Request Friday tomorrow. Drop me an email anytime with your request, mike@570news.com. Or when you call in, let our guy on the other side of the glass know what song you would like to hear tomorrow. Makes you think about work. It's your workin' songs, All Request Friday tomorrow. On the Mike Farwell Show, this is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You might remember a month or so ago, I posted a video on our show's Facebook page. And if you're not yet following the Facebook page, come on, question your life choices or at least your internet choices, won't you? Feel free. It's a public page. Just search The Mike Farwell Show on Facebook. And the video I posted was actually shot by my beloved, who was in the passenger seat as we were making our way into Cambridge. Had just come down Chantel, made the left there onto Fountain to go around and make the right onto King Street into Preston past Riverside Park. And just around the Petro-Canada station there on Fountain as we're making our way towards King, a vehicle along the multi-use trail, that really wide sidewalk that's there alongside the road, came past on that sidewalk or that trail at a pretty good clip. And I'd never seen anything like this before. And we both wondered, my beloved and I, what in HE double hockey sticks is this? So she took a little video. It's posted on the Facebook page. Take a look for yourself. But really what it was is exactly that. It was a vehicle enclosed, the driver sitting in the driver's seat, and this thing was just clipping along. And I thought that's a pretty large vehicle to be on a trail and or sidewalk, and it's moving at a pretty good pace. And you know how I feel about e-scooters and anything else that's battery propelled on our sidewalks and trails these days. But this was every bit a small vehicle. And so after posting that on our Facebook page and some of the commentary, and somebody had said that it's a mobility device, which I thought was rather interesting. I'd never seen one. There were no markings on it to indicate it as such. And somebody else responding to that comment about the mobility device, somebody that I know, said, actually, it's not, but it's being marketed as one. That somebody happens to be the founder of Barrier Free Cambridge. His name is Devin Sisak, and he joins me on the show this morning to talk more about this. Devin, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
So what can you tell us about these vehicles that some are describing as and even being sold as mobility devices?
So through my research, I actually had an encounter with that same vehicle that you had videoed. I was riding my bike on the multi-use trail. It came around the corner and forced me onto the grass. So they had kind of been on my radar before, but then once that incident happened, I really started to look into how these are allowed on our trails. And I started looking into the province in 2017 brought in a pilot project for low-speed electric vehicles. And now municipalities have to opt in to have them allowed to drive on their roads. And it seems that dealers are now labeling these as mobility devices to get around those bylaws and enable them to be driven anywhere a pedestrian is allowed to walk.
So who's going to be responsible ultimately for governing these in any way? Is it going to be a municipality? Do we need legislation from the province?
So ultimately, it'd probably come from the province, but the municipalities have the power to enact bylaws to regulate where they can be used, how they can be used. Right now, a low-speed electric vehicle, the municipality needs to pass a bylaw allowing them to be used in the municipality.
Gotcha.
But with them being called mobility devices, I think both the municipalities and the province need to look at how they're being classified as mobility devices. Some of these can fit up to 4 people. Most that are being sold have 2 seats. So as soon as you can drive with your friend, it's no longer a mobility device. It becomes a vehicle.
I'm sure, Devin, that somebody in your line of work or your line of advocacy as the founder of Barrier Free Cambridge is all about anything that helps reduce barriers for those with mobility challenges. So how do you kind of square that circle in this regard? If this is something that helps somebody with mobility challenges get around, is it just too much of something, or how do we classify this?
So I think we have to look at what we already have available to people with disabilities. We have the traditional mobility scooter that we see people driving into the mall and accessing stores. And it really takes their mobility from their home right to the point of the activity that they're doing, whether it's getting groceries off the shelf at the grocery store, buying their clothes, that kind of thing. There are canopies, hard canopies, as well as the soft canopies that can provide shelter from the elements for those. But I think we have to draw the line when we're putting a 600-pound vehicle that can go up to 45 kilometers an hour on our sidewalks, because we have to look at the broad range of disability. We have people with visual impairments, neurodivergent individuals, and how are those interactions going to happen and play out on sidewalks? You have someone with a visual impairment, they're walking down, they come around a corner, they don't hear the silent electric vehicle, that person doesn't see them out of their peripheral, and now we have an accident. And because you don't have to have a license or insurance, it opens up a big can of worms.
Yeah, you just touched on something else I was curious about, and that is what level of training and or insurance is required for these vehicles. And by the sounds of it, the answer is none.
No, you can walk into the store. I'm not sure. I believe it's 16. You can purchase one. That's what I was told at Easy Rides in Cambridge Center Mall when I went in to look into them. No license, no insurance. That was their big selling point. And I've also heard on TikTok videos advertising these and social media posts that if you lose your license, this is another way to keep driving. One post was about someone who had a stroke, lost their license, bought it. Now, we have these checks and balances to keep people safe, not only pedestrians, the drivers, the users themselves. So I really question, if you're losing your license for a reason, why we're just giving you a smaller car, and that's okay.
You have been vocal on this issue for the last little while after the encounter you had. What is your ultimate hope here, Devin, by coming public with this information and your concerns?
Just that the public is aware that these vehicles are out there. They can educate themselves on, are they really enclosed mobility devices as they're being sold, or are they small electric vehicles? We have back to school. We're going to be sending our children walking to school next week. Are they going to encounter vehicles on the sidewalks now? And then I've reached out to the region, and I know they're looking into the classification of these and how they fit in our region right now. That's what I'm trying to get out there and get people kind of thinking a little bit ahead about this.
Devin, I really appreciate your advocacy on this issue, and thanks for reaching out to help us understand better what this vehicle was that I saw on the way into Cambridge a month or so ago. Appreciate your time on the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Devin Sisak is the founder of Barrier Free Cambridge. I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but methinks if you've got a golf cart in your garage, might as well just take it out nowadays. It is the wild, wild west, thanks to lithium-ion batteries, in my opinion. Would love to get yours, though. That's what the show is all about. So why don't you give us a call and tell us what you think on The Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
We have to look at the broad range of disability. We have people with visual impairments, neurodivergent individuals, and how are those interactions going to happen and play out on sidewalks? You have someone with a visual impairment, they're walking down, they come around a corner, they don't hear this silent electric vehicle, and now we have an accident. And because you don't have to have a license or insurance, it opens up a big can of worms.
Devin Sisak is the founder of Barrier Free Cambridge, joins us to talk about enclosed mobility devices, or at least what are being billed as mobility devices. But these are small vehicles, essentially, fully enclosed, They can seat up to 4 people. They can travel up to 45 kilometers per hour, and they are being sold at a store near you at Cambridge Centre Mall, among others. The company that sells them is called Easy Rides, and they don't strike me as mobility devices in any way. But the bottom line here is connected to something we've been talking about for a while. That barn door is wide open when it comes to the electric motorized vehicles on our streets, sidewalks, trails, and the lack of regulation around them. Let's go to the phones and hear from you on this morning. Corey, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Hey, this sounds like Corey Kimpson, Ward 3 councillor in Cambridge.
This might be Corey Kimpson, Ward 3 councillor in Cambridge, although I am calling as Corey Kimpson, private citizen.
Fair enough.
Right now. So interesting, when golf carts were mentioned, I thought to myself of a trip I was on earlier this year in California, where people were driving golf carts in these beachside communities. So I looked up to see what they're doing there and how do they allow these. And they refer to them as neighborhood electric vehicles. However, they need to be licensed, they need to be insured, they need to be registered. And they have guidelines as to what they can do, and they also cannot exceed a speed of what would be the equivalent of 24 kilometers per hour. So I think there's some work that needs to be done as far as probably our province, because they're the ones who handle vehicle licensing. And there's going to have to be some discussion, whether it be between the different layers of enforcement, who can do what. And that's where we always get bogged down on who has the ability to enforce what, where. You know, bylaws not allowed to enforce certain highway traffic rules. You know, the police don't step in when it's other things. But we could look to our neighbors in the south for something that perhaps is already underway.
I love the research you've done here, Corey, because this strikes at the very heart of it for me. I think not only regulation by way of licensing so that there's some level of training before operating one of these things, but also the top speed. 24 kilometers per hour is slower than those little orange scooters can travel. They go up to 30K, and it blows my mind that we let people whip around like that.
Yes, and they also regulate the types of roads you can go on, so you can only take them on roads that have a certain top speed. So they're also recognizing that, you know, you can't have something putting along, because is that the next thing we're going to encounter on the 401? Right.
Yeah, it's a great point. Corey, private citizen, thank you for weighing in on this today. And while I've got you, Corey, city councillor, we're going to have to touch base. We will touch base because I want to talk to you about LRT in the next few days, okay?
Absolutely. You know how to find me.
I certainly do. Thanks very much, Corey.
Have a wonderful day.
You as well. Bye-bye. Corey Kimpson is the Ward 3 councillor in Cambridge. And she's just calling because she too, like counselors are people too. They live in our neighborhoods. They have concerns. And in this case, I love what Corey did in terms of looking at how, because I've seen these communities in the United States where golf carts are a mode of transportation. Regulation, it's all that's missing here. And sadly, I don't have any great hope that the regulation will come quickly, but hopefully it will come. Shane, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you this morning?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
Well, I'm just enjoying a nice little cruise in my tractor trailer down the 401 into Woodstock.
Oh, boy, stay safe.
Day.
Keep the rubber side down.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying. It's awfully hard out here, though. It's getting ridiculous. I retired after 30 years of driving paratransit for the city of Niagara Falls, during which time I did a lot of looking into various legislations, various things with AODA, et cetera, et cetera. You cannot find anything in writing about mobility devices. But if they want an honest opinion, a mobility device or an assisted mobility device should be regulated to one person only. Whether it's a physical disability, et cetera, it should be required to be one person. Once you start putting a second person on one of these things, they could be known as side-by-sides, ATVs, anything like that. Those should be regulated by the Ministry of Ontario with proper legislation under the Highway Traffic Act, etc. I've been stuck in a tractor trailer driving through our region, and I've actually been stuck behind somebody in a mobility device riding down the shoulder of the road, not even in a bike lane, because they complain with some justification that sidewalks are too rough on their bodies. They may have low pain tolerances or whatever. And I'm going to try and keep this as short as I can, Mike, but I'm trying to give you the flip side of this as well. And I know that our counselor out of Cambridge, or pardon me, our private citizen out of Cambridge is also hearing this. So regions and municipalities cannot necessarily regulate stuff like this. I wish they had the power to do it. Really, I do. But until we get some sort of legislation in place from either the federal or provincial governments, municipalities are going to have their hands tied. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah, Shane, appreciate that. And I think you nail it. And I've also been thinking that when it comes to mobility device, that should be for the person that has the mobility challenge. One person. The second you add a second, third, or fourth seat, these are off the books as mobility devices. Plain and simple. It shouldn't be that hard, should it? We'll take more calls after this on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just ahead of our update in the 570 News Center, let's get back to the phones, take more of your thoughts on these enclosed, quote-unquote, mobility devices, which I think are anything but. Let's see what Yvette has to say. Good morning, Yvette.
Morning. I think this is a great question for Ask the Chief when Chief Kroll is back on, because I don't think we need any more bureaucracy, because I think we have the ability to stop this anyway. Because for example, I don't think it has anything to do with like a mobility device, like calling it a mobility device. If I had a riding lawnmower, excuse me, and went onto a sidewalk as I was doing a turn and I hit someone, like I could be charged with negligence or I could be charged with assault because I'm operating something that can hurt someone. So it has there's all other avenues I think that can go around. So I don't think it has much to do with municipalities or the province or putting in legislation. It's half common sense, but two, that beware if you're using these things, you can get charged.
Well, and that's, I think I get where you're coming from on this, Yvette, and maybe what it comes down to is enforcement of some kind. It is a little bit of a gray area, I think, but because you mentioned what you did, and that is the next time Chief Mark Crowell is on, or should I say champion Chief Crowell, because Ontario Premier Doug Ford says our police chief is a champion. That just so happens to be next Tuesday. And along with Champion Chief Crowell, Staff Sergeant Scott Griffiths will be with us as well. He heads the Traffic Services Unit. And I've already said, just by way of thought starters, Toronto recently did a crackdown. Police in Toronto did a crackdown on e-scooters, which are not supposed to be on sidewalks or in bike lanes. And they started charging people. And I'm wondering if there's any appetite or any idea for doing that here. And so I think we can get towards an answer to your question there, Yvette. Great thought starter and good conversation to start our show today as we send you to the 570 News Center to get an update. And then a new Kitchener Rangers season is upon us, and that means some new initiatives with Rangers Reach, which we'll tell you all about coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. Well, you're going to like them. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers. Ever since I went to the Kitchener Rangers annual general meeting this past Monday night, I have been more excited than ever for the upcoming hockey season. There was a great energy in the room, a great deal of optimism around a talented hockey team that we're putting back on the ice this season. And one of the people at the AGM was my good friend and executive director of Rangers Reach, Craig Campbell, who had to get up and explain himself and talk about how we're going to raise even more money for the community through Rangers Reach 50-50 raffles, etc. And Craig is in studio with me this morning. Hey, Craiger, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm top shelf, my friend. How about you?
Absolutely top shelf today.
Glad to hear it. And along with Craig is the operations coordinator at Rangers Reach, Lauren Covemaker. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm great. And I haven't seen you since Craig took us out on that terrible golf tournament. You remember that? It was hot. We couldn't hit the ball straight. I mean, you were much better than I was, but this is what he thinks is fun for us.
Mike, I think we had a great time.
We did have a great time.
We were golfing. Right. Even my ball went maybe like 5 yards ahead of us, and it all worked out in the end.
It did work out in the end. There was some great camaraderie, a little bit to eat afterwards. Everything was great.
And in our mantra, we're out supporting the community.
Bingo. And to that end, Craig, let's start right there because I saw a notification yesterday that grants have just, not grant by the name, but grants to the community have just opened up your stream for granting.
Yeah, holy, as we're starting to get ready for a season here and things just roll along, we wanted to make sure that we got our community impact grants out to the community a little bit earlier than we had in the past. So they opened yesterday and we're ready. We had a really successful run of community grants for last season, and we're excited. So we've got those that application stream open for sport, youth and sport and recreation. So all the guidelines are on our website. So if you're part of an organization locally that deals with youth in sport or recreation, and you're in Waterloo Region, check us out at rangersreach.com/grants, and you can get all the information and see if you qualify to apply. And again, we're going to have around $100,000 targeted to go out for these community impact grants.
By the numbers, because I heard you talk about this at the AGM on Monday night, what kind of granting money flowed through Rangers Reach last year?
Oh, that one's a work in progress, but
okay.
We anticipate it's going to be between $400,000 and $500,000 from the funds that we raised going out into the community. We take pieces off. Obviously, we have commitments to community grants that we make outside of our community impact program. But this is a big piece. This allows grassroots organizations to come in and apply. We have two categories that you can get into, up to $5,000 or $5,000 to $15,000. So depending on the scope, and we did that because we want to make sure that those smaller organizations that are looking for, not huge money, but enough money to make an impact in their organization still have an opportunity and don't get left behind because they're asking for a smaller amount. A great example of that is the Brain Injury Association of Waterloo Wellington. They've applied for grants in the last couple of years around $5,000, and they're outfitting a program called Lids for Kids, and it's bike helmets to make sure that kids who are riding bikes are safe. And great program, and we're happy to support it, and it meets all the targets that we're looking for.
It's a great reminder that the money that we spend on 50-50 raffles through Rangers Reach at Kitchener Rangers games helps out the community in this way, up to $500,000, somewhere between 400 and 500. We'll get the official numbers when Craig's gone through all of them, but to just give you a sense of all of this. And so, Lauren, let me bring it over to you. Craig mentions the Brain Injury Association as one example, but when you look back over the past year of granting, what stands out to you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just opportunity in sport. A lot of the organizations we've supported, like A Venture for Change, they've started their own little soccer league to help people compete in kind of like a travel league, but without all the expenses that come along with it. Waterloo Ravens created a learn to skate program for new people wanting to try out the sport of hockey, but without the burden of the cost. So that involves use of equipment, being able to borrow it. Even the YMCA is creating more sport opportunities, but it's not just alone opportunity in sport. It's also around leadership opportunities as well. So with Level Up, creating a social justice program where they can really participate and help plan more programs for the community as well, moving it to more around mental health as well, making sure that athletes as well have the resources to have access to mental health services. I believe that one was through, oh my gosh, there's so many grants that I can't even keep up, but we've been doing a lot of things throughout different organizations. Even Oktoberfest is a big one coming up. Just having the opportunity for kids to participate in a ball hockey tournament without, again, having to bring their own stick. Everything's there, just provided for them. So there's a lot of different organizations that we've supported that support a lot of different areas that are essential to sport, but also just opportunity and overall well-being as well. And that's what we're focusing on too for the upcoming grant cycle that's now open, is a lot of just social connection, well-being, access to sport.
I want to remind you of the website, rangersreach.com. It's amazing how much good can be done while we have fun playing these raffles. And you mentioned leadership, Lauren, and I just want to touch on that a little bit because I see you at games every night, and you're helping coordinate and lead that incredible group of volunteers that helps make these 50-50 raffles in-house possible.
Yes, yeah. Our volunteers are such a core to our organization. They are essentially the brand ambassadors. When you come to a game, that's your first maybe in-person impression with Rangers Reach, is buying a ticket from our volunteers. And so our volunteers really give off the sense of what we stand for. So they really love the community, support the community. They give off just a great presence overall of Rangers Reach. They're so big to our organization. I think they had over 300,000.
No, 300 hours.
Yeah, 300, so many hours put into it, but they're so core to our organization, and we love and support all of our volunteers. And we're happy. We're actually taking on new volunteers. Even though the season's starting soon, we're still happily taking new ones in. So if they'd like to come visit us at our FanFest booth, they're more than welcome, and they can learn a little bit more about Rangers Reach, as well as on our social media platforms and on our website too.
FanFest is coming up on Sunday. Rangers Reach will obviously have a presence. Lauren Kovemaker, Operations Coordinator with Rangers Reach. Craig Campbell, the Executive Director. There are changes coming to the raffle this season, too, and I can't wait to talk more about them. So stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. In studio this morning with Lauren Kovemaker, Operations Coordinator, Rangers Reach, and Craig Campbell, who is the Executive Director of Rangers Reach. New Kitchener Rangers season is almost upon us. Preseason, how about it? It's tomorrow night. Let's go. Friday night at the Memorial Auditorium. And Craig, because I am who I am, just during that commercial break, I thought, I'm going to snoop around a little bit. And I went to Rangers5050.com. And it's not a static page. Something's going on, Craig Campbell, at Rangers5050.com right now.
Yeah, we did a soft launch of our refresh, our brand and site refresh for 5050. We've been working on throughout the summer here, taking some concepts from other organizations, actually from across the country. Right here in Ontario, out in Calgary Flames, we borrowed some thoughts from what they do, and we tried to put it all together because we do get asked questions on some things, and we feedback on, hey, we want to know where your money's going. So we actually now have a feature spot on our sales page that you can kind of see highlights of some of our check presentations and some of our winners. And but the biggest change that people will notice when they come to the site is It's actually got some live action video going on.
Sure does. I'm getting excited again. We just scored a goal against London on my screen.
Exactly.
I like that.
Well, that wasn't by accident. So, we just try to bring it and make it fresh so it's not stale, and kind of come up with the times. And so we did a soft launch of our Super September raffle that is now live. So you can actually go online and get tickets. They're available. And the draw will be at the home opener on the 19th. We have some great early bird prizes as well, including the first one. If you buy a ticket before the third period starts this Sunday at FanFest, where the Rangers play at 2:00, we're going to give away a suite for a game in the 25-26 season in Club 63. And it's had a little bit of a refresh too. And it's a unique experience to go and watch a game from Club 63. And we've just sweetened it a little bit more. We've thrown in a $500 food and beverage credit. So not only are you going to get 14 tickets to the game, bring all your friends, some of your friends, and 2 VIP parking passes, you'll have that food and beverage credit as well. So you can really entertain, have a great time. And on top of that, you get to see the Rangers. So that's just an early bird prize. Then we have cash at the second exhibition game on the 12th. The third at the home opener, we have a really great early bird prize to convince you to buy a ticket before 4:00. We have the ultimate Rangers VIP experience, which is going to include a customized jersey by Dan Liebold. We do that once a year, so we've packaged that in. On top of that, it'll be a tour, behind the scenes tour at the Odd and the new Rangers facilities. That will be a very unique experience, not available to the general public. That'll be accompanied with Joe Birch, the Chief Operating Officer of the Rangers, and I will lead that tour through the building. And then to cap that one off, we're including 4 VIP tickets, including parking for a game this season, and dinner at the Keg, $200. That's an early bird prize.
Right. These are all...
Some people might want to win that before they might want to win the jackpot, which is kind of crazy.
Early bird prize of the custom jersey, the Keg, you just talked about cash, the Sweet 63, all of this stuff, just early bird prizes. Now listen, I'm going to be selfish here. I want to impress Craig, okay? So help me impress the executive director of Rangers Reach, because ticket sales are open right now. And I'd love to see the jackpot move just even a little bit. Like if one ticket is bought before Craig leaves today, that would be the coolest thing. So if you could go to Rangers5050.com, $10, whatever. What's the entry point?
10.
Okay, so any $10 entry. Okay, I want Craig to be impressed. I'm trying to help me look good here for Craig Campbell. And then Super September. So the draw will be made third period of September 19th game.
9:30 on the 19th. Our draw times are going to be at 9:30 on game days. That's a new directive pushed down from the AGCO. They want us to define our draw times. No longer can, for the final draw, no longer can we really just say we're going to draw it at the start of the third period or so for main draws, we have set times. So it'll be 9:30 during the season. And we try to do that knowing that as people leave, the winning number will be posted on all of our kiosk screens. And there's 14 or 15 of them throughout the building. So it'd be easy when you're leaving to see the winning number post. But we've also made some changes on the winning number to make it easier for people as well.
I wanted to ask Lauren about that. I think it's called something like single number multiplay or something like that.
Yeah, single number multi-chance.
Okay, multi-chance. There
Very
we go.
close,
So, okay,
yeah.
help me out here.
Yeah, so that's a new initiative that we're bringing in this year as well as a change. It's going to help cut down on a lot of costs and make your tickets print out even quicker. And it also gives us the advantage to make even larger numbers. So I think this year you can buy... Instead of, I think our biggest number was like 900 tickets, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
This year, you can get, starting in this draw, I believe, 1,963 numbers.
1963.
That would be on a regular
1963.
Friday, but for the opener, we're gonna allow. If you buy the $80 ticket, 2,526 numbers.
For the 25-26 season.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
So imagine all those numbers represented by one big golden number on your ticket.
So that golden number is, let's just say for argument's sake, 1,000. 1000. That gets entered into the draw 1,963 times.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that will help us too, as well, on your part. Instead of having a super arm's length, trying to fold it up into your wallet, it's going to be just one number on a pretty medium-sized ticket that'll help us reduce in costs for paper. That'll help us put more money into the community. It'll reduce technical errors on our half because you can only print out so many numbers on a ticket. It'll help so many things in the community, as well as even our sponsors, Arnold Hearing. They help us too with this jackpot, and they're excited for this change as well. And they're excited as this will help open up more opportunity for the community, more opportunity for those who maybe have a hard time checking their whole list of numbers on the ticket. Now they just have one number. Even last season, we implemented the change of putting in your first name and phone number so that we can contact you if you win. And that received great feedback. Barely everyone was willing to give in their phone number, because who doesn't want the call that they won so much money, right?
Absolutely. So the Super September jackpot is open, or the raffle is open now. Rangers5050.com. I want to see the jackpot move before Craig leaves. And just what Lauren was getting to, Craig, sharing that phone number and that name. I was on a sports road trip about a month ago. Every place I went to and bought a 50-50, they asked for my number. I wanted to share it, because if I miss the number, I don't see it posted, whatever, don't even make me check the website later. You'll call me.
Yeah, and it's just a great way to associate your ticket with a buyer, right? So now, I'm a first person who'll tell you, I hate unclaimed prizes. They're a pain. They linger. Then there's paperwork at the edge. I want them. If somebody bought a ticket on a raffle prize and that raffle prize was $18,000, I want to get you the $18,000. You bought the ticket. So we started collecting buyer information in venue on our devices last year. It was very successful, as Lauren says. We're going to continue that process across all of our channels. So whether it's for 50-50 or for Jersey raffle, we're going to start doing that. We want to be able to contact you and get you your prize. It's simple. Like, you buy a ticket, and really you don't have to think about it. If I'm the winner, I'm getting a call. And we had lots of buyers last year that we did use their information to text them after the game and say, "Hey, we think your number was drawn as the winner. Please contact us."
There you go.
Great text to get at 10 o'clock on a Friday night.
Sure is. I'm still waiting for mine, but my day is coming. Watch for Rangers Reach at FanFest on Sunday. Set yourself up as a volunteer. They're always looking for more. And we've got an estimated prize of $80 in the jackpot already,
Woo-hoo.
Craig. The Farwell force comes through for us today. Thank you both very much for being here.
Thanks very much for having us. You are a big key for us. We are so grateful that you believe in our programs and what we do, and allow us the time to come and share it with your listeners. Thank you.
I do believe in the program. I love what Rangers Reach is able to do through these raffles. We'll keep having fun. Craig Campbell, Executive Director at Rangers Reach. Lauren Covemaker, Operations Coordinator. Thank you both for being here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thank you very much. I was late for that commercial break, so I couldn't get into it before Craig left. But the executive director of Rangers Reach, I asked you to make me look good in front of him, and you did. Rangers5050.com, the jackpot already at $180. You are a force for good. Appreciate you in every way. Go to Rangers5050.com. Get in on the Super September jackpot. Tremendous early bird prizes and an estimated prize of already $180. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rod.
Hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah, hookah chaka, hookah, hookah. I can't stop this feeling deep inside of me. Girl, you just don't realize what you do to me. When you hold me in your arms so tight, you let me know everything's alright. I'm hooked on a feeling.
Oh, it's the feeling of the day before a long weekend. Thursday mornings at this time, it's also, of course, the feeling of levity. lightness, the unbearable lightness of being. Laughter, of course, because Gary Chalk is the humor columnist who writes Living Retired, and he joins us on the show every Thursday morning at this time to bring that column to life. I remind you, you'll find it online at livingretired.press. And while you're there, just sign up for the weekly newsletter so the column can be delivered directly to your inbox. It is worth the effort to do that and the read that you get because it's funnier than memos from the boss. Mr. Chalk, good morning.
Mr. Mike with a mic, how are you? I like how you call me Mr. Chalk. I like that. I mean, I'm used to be called, they say, hey, dork.
Listen, I always say, I don't care what you call me, just call me in time for dinner. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh, I know that feeling. It's funny, just before I came into the office here, Jan, she's up in the den. She's going through some old files and straightening them out and television there. I said, dear, why don't I put Rogers 20 on? You'll be able to watch me live. And she said, no, I find you disturbing.
It's funny because one of my coworkers today said I was annoying. So we're on the same track today, my friend.
We're trending.
Exactly. We are indeed.
And speaking of trending, remember a few weeks ago, I chatted about that on-trend shirt that my wife purchased, Jan got for me. And remember, and I went to Hortons and got in the line in the drive-thru, and then they turned around and said, the woman in front of you bought it for you. Then I went to the bank and I had to go inside and see a teller, and she complimented me on my shirt. So obviously I'm an on-trend guy, right?
There's no question about it, Gary.
Well, exactly. So last week Jan came home and she had a second on-trend shirt, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't be twice as on-trend. So, I mean, what I did, I drove right to the Horton store where I'd been before, and I went through, and I expected the woman at the window to say, the lovely woman in front of you purchased your drink. She said, that'll be $2.10.
So nobody bought it for you, Gary?
I think it was a mistake.
Yeah, it had to be an oversight.
Right, so I went to the bank, and wouldn't you know it, was the same teller, completed the transaction. I said, thank you, and I waited. And she said, you're welcome. And I sort of waited, and I said, have a nice day. And she said, same to you. Nothing happened. So, so here's my hypothesis. The first on-trend shirt was black in color. The one Jan just got me this time on trend was yellow. So the obvious solution is I don't look good in yellow.
Yeah, that's got to be it. It's got to be it, Gary. Because it's not you, it's the shirt.
Exactly.
Yes.
And speaking of shirts and things, do you ever read those labels inside your shirts or whatever?
Very rarely. I have to be honest.
Yeah.
Is that like the mattress tag that you're not supposed to remove under penalty of?
You take that
I
off,
know.
The mattress piece will be on you. No. I read the inside tag on my pants, and man, what I read, it got my knickers in a knot. Yeah, during the summer, I like to wear shorts. My favorite pair is made by O'Neill. I bought them at a sporting apparel store. I don't know why. I mean, what guy in his right mind reads the labels in his pants? But I looked at mine, and it said these shorts are hybrid. I have hybrid shorts. Now, when you
wait a minute. Aren't shorts just by themselves hybrid pants?
Maybe they are.
Okay.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyways, it said they're hybrid. When I think of hybrid, I think of hybrid cars. You know, they got an internal combustion engine, an electric battery, and it produces less gas emissions. So I asked Jan about the hybrid shorts. Best she could come up with, she said, Gary, sort of similar to hybrid cars, maybe it means when you wear your hybrid shorts, you have less gas emissions. So she wanted to go out and buy some more. Blew me away.
I wasn't sure I wanted to know where this was going, Gary.
Well, now you know.
Okay.
Yep. So, anyways, I went through all my shorts in my drawers, see if I had any other hybrids. I got natural fit shorts, slightly fitted shorts, traditional fit shorts, slim fit. I even got a pair of stretch shorts, and then another pair that's called slightly stretched shorts. No hybrids. So
I slightly stretch every pair of shorts I try to put on these days.
Yeah, exactly. I've got walking shorts, cargo shorts, gym shorts, running shorts, chino shorts, hiking shorts, biking shorts. No more hybrid shorts. So obviously, where do you go for information that's correct? I Googled it.
Of course you did. The internet has all the answers, Gary.
And you believe it all. So I Googled hybrid shorts men. And what came up, first thing up, was O'Neill Canada, and they're the ones I have the shorts with. And it said what did it say? Here it says, discover hybrid shorts for men featuring clean washes and sophisticated prints to fit any style. And the very next one under that was from Bikini Village. And they said, whether you're on the beach or in the city, you'll be on trend. Well, I had to tell Jan that Bikini Village says that I'm on trend when I'm wearing my hybrid shorts. And she said, you know, Gary, one time Nehru jackets were on trend. You had a powder blue one, polyester. You took me to the high school semi-formal. Halfway through, your neck was covered with a bright red rash. We had to leave. Oh, my gosh. So I went through, and there's a lot of hybrid stuff. There's cars and bikes and meats. And there's hybrid wearables like your Fitbit. One I didn't understand was there's hybrid eyeshadow. And there is a hybrid bikini. It's a bathing suit plus a towel all wrapped in one. But what it comes down to, Mike, these have to be the top two things, as far as I'm concerned, of living retired, that are hybrid. They have, get ready for it,
okay,
hybrid decorator pillows.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gary, I love the decorated pillows theme that recurs in living retired. Does a hybrid decorator pillow only take up half the space on the bed? Like, how does this work?
Well, even if it does, you just get twice as many.
That's right. That's true.
And the other thing is hybrid toilets.
Come on now.
Yep, a hybrid toilet. It's got to be similar, I would think, to a hybrid vehicle, which means lower gas emissions.
We got to get one of those for the office, Gary. We got to get one of those for the office. Oh, Gary Chalk is the author of the humor column Living Retired. Find it online, livingretired.press, and listen to it every Thursday morning here on the Mike Farwell Show. I'm not sure Gary can even remember his name these days, but we'll get into that as we continue Living Retired this morning on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Thursday mornings at this time, we are joined by author Gary Chalk. He writes the humor column Living Retired, which you can also find online, livingretired.press, if you'd like to read it for yourself on a weekly basis. And even better, when you go to livingretired.press, you can sign up for the weekly newsletter, have that column delivered directly to your inbox. It's just like the paper. The olden days of the paper coming to your front step. This one, the Living Retired column, when you go to livingretired.press and sign up for it, comes right into your inbox. Gary, we have learned so far today that both hybrid shorts and hybrid toilets can lower gas emissions. This is critical information for us.
Well, you know, at the home office of Living Retired, we always are trying to find out what is newsworthy. So that's why we come up with these topics.
It's perfect.
Hey, do you remember on Laugh-In the bit about the guy come on with the cigar, the big hat, and he said, you can call me Ray, you can call me Jay, you can call me Ray J, but it doesn't have to call me Johnson.
Oh, you did it very well, Gary. I certainly do.
Oh, my gosh. Well, I had something sort of that similar to me last week. I was at my doctor's office, and I was in the waiting room, and the nurse appeared in the doorway where they bring you into the examination room. She called out the name of the next person to come forward. As I walked up, she said, oh, sorry. I said Mary, not Gary. And I said, oh, I apologize. I thought you said Gary. So I smiled at Mary as she walked past, and I went and sat back down in the seats amongst all these other people waiting. And the nurse come out, and she summoned the next one. And when I stepped forward, the nurse said, sorry, Gary, this time I called Barry. So I laughed it off with the nurse, apologized to Barry as if I was trying to butt in as he walked through. I'm really embarrassed now, so I'm back with the other patients, and I'm in the seat. Well, it didn't happen yet again. The nurse appeared at the door, and she opened up by saying, Gary, it's not you, it's Isabella.
Wait a minute. What? Okay, Mary and Barry I can understand, but Isabella?
Yeah, well, what happened, as soon as she opened up by saying, Gary, it's not you, she said, Gary, I immediately jumped on my chair, only to sit back down when she said it was Isabella. And Isabella looked at me with this strange look. The other people in the waiting room, they all looked. I mean, I was mortified. I shrunk back down in my chair. I've been, like you said, Mary, Barry, now it's Isabella. It wasn't long. The nurse came out, and she said, okay, it's your turn, Gary. Everybody clapped. And just as I'm walking through the door, my phone rang. It was Jan. She said, bye, Larry. Oh, sorry, Gary. I was just talking to Larry on the phone. And I said, don't worry, Jan. I don't know if my name is Mary or Barry, but I know for sure I'm not Isabella. Well, that sure got her confused. The nurse took my blood pressure and asked me to see what the doctor was for. And I said, well, my torn rotator cuff, my knee injection, and my hearing. And she laughed, and, we had a good kick out of it. But that night at dinner, Jan and I laughed more about my experience of names. We remember the many times years ago, Jan's father, Frank Clark, his name was Frank Clark, and he had a strange situation similar. Do you remember the store Consumers Distributing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you would go in, and you had this big, thick binders that were screwed to the counter because it wouldn't want you walking away with one of those things. And you would go through, and you would find your item, and you would write it down on a piece of paper that they then handed to the clerk. And the clerk would go out the back and get the item, and then you would wait after you filled out this form at the counter for the clerk to come back with your electric hand mixer or whatever and call out your name. Well, the concept worked until it didn't work for Jan's father, Frank Clark. He completed the form. He printed his name, Frank Clark. A few minutes later, the clerk appeared and called out, "Clammers!" Nobody came forward. And they said again, "Clammers!" And all these customers looked at each other. And one last time, the clerk, "Francis Clammers, I have your electric hand mixer." This is when Frank Clark's printing turned out to be Francis Clammers.
Frank Clark to Francis Clammers. I love it. I love it.
Oh, my gosh. And then there was the competitor to that. It was called ShopRite. Do you remember that store?
I do remember ShopRite as well, yes.
Yeah, they would, again, had those plastic-coated pages in a catalog, and you'd fill them all out, and then they would bring you the item. And all the items, they always seemed to be things like, I don't know, anything to do with a home appliance, a hairdryer, or maybe a transistor radio or whatever. But it seems nowadays, instead of jotting down on a piece of paper what you want to purchase, you just load everything in your grocery cart and then go self-checkout and you do it yourself. And that's another whole can of worms. It is nuts. But at any rate, I always remember that writing. And thank heavens when we went to West Montrose yesterday, we stopped to see the closed bridge. And that's another whole story. But I pulled in a bakery that was right there.
Oh, yeah, they do that on purpose, Gary.
Oh, I tell you, it's like going through the gift shop at Disney when you come through the ride.
Yep.
Went in, and they had these butter tarts there. My gosh, I'm telling you, Mike. We got a little tray of 6 and a coffee. And we made it to the steps coming out of the bakery when I immediately plopped myself down and we started eating butter tarts. And the bottom line is there's a tray of 6. We had 2 on the steps. We started our return trip home. We had 1 each in the car. We had 2 last night. And the tray's empty.
You got to make another trip to West Montrose. Simple as that.
I think it is, and I found out the secret ingredient. You know what the secret ingredient is?
Be careful now, Chalk. Be very careful.
No, it's not raisin.
Okay.
It's lard.
Good old Mennonite baking, my friend.
I'll tell you, put me down and I'm there.
Gary, whatever your name is, Isabella, it's been fun. We'll talk again next week.
Hey, Mike, you can call me Gary, you can call me Barry, you can call me Larry. You can even call me Francis Clammers, but you doesn't need to call me Johnson.
Deal. Talk to you in a week. by Gary Chalk, or whatever the heck his name is, every Thursday morning with Living Retired here on the Mike Farwell Show. Find it online, livingretired.press. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. It is that time of year, as you know, and if you are a student, like I was a student, it is a time of year that's filled with a decent amount of anxiety. Back to school, of course, which is next week. Not Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, but Wednesday following the PD Day to start the school year. And I couldn't help but reflect on a story I read this morning about our local Catholic school board celebrating its enrollment numbers, which are showing steady growth. In fact, a quote from the board says it is in a growth position, and these enrollment numbers are a reflection of the confidence that our community has in the Catholic school board's delivery of education. And I don't know if I've ever really thought about it in these terms before, but almost like a competition. Right? You're in a growth position. It's almost business-like, isn't it? And I know per student funding and all of that, but I just, frankly, had never thought of education necessarily in that way. And I know there's been a great deal of conversation about our public school boards in this region and beyond, and concerns over ideology and all kinds of things that are happening within the system, and maybe that's leading some families to leave the public system, go into the Catholic system, et cetera. But just this whole notion that, I mean, I thought school enrollment grew because our communities grow, and then you go to school. Like, that's what kids do. They go to school. But just interesting to think about the numbers and almost the competition for students, and in which board do you have more confidence? And then more broadly, it makes me think of, in which board do you have more confidence? How about one? How about we had one publicly funded school board in the province of Ontario? Do you think we could save a few bucks on education administration and then direct more resources to the classroom if we did it that way? Who's with me on the one school board idea? I'm going to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then let's talk ticks and the uptick in them. It's not the most comfortable conversation, but I think it's one you need to hear. And it's next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Ever since a conversation we had on the show a few weeks ago about a man who contracted Lyme disease and is now getting treatment in Mexico. We, in fact, talked to him from the treatment facility in Mexico because he was having a whale of a time getting not only proper diagnosis, but then treatment for his Lyme disease here in Canada. And your response to that story certainly left an impression on me. And I've been hyper aware of ticks in general and where I go lest I come in contact with a tick. Well, it turns out you may have to be even more concerned. And I'm not trying to fearmonger here in any way, but just share with you the information as it is made available to us. Melanie Willis is the director of the G. Magnata Lyme Disease Research Lab and in the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biology at the University of Guelph, and joins us for a conversation. Melanie, good morning.
Good morning.
I understand through the research that you have done and shared that encounters with ticks are not something we need to only be concerned about if we're out hiking through the woods, for example.
Absolutely. Now, we're in the early stages of collecting a very large data set on human tick encounters. So we're 3 years into this. I think there's a lot more that we can learn. But what we're already seeing is that a lot of people who come through our program, they're not deep in the bush. They're not necessarily hunting or camping. They're in their own backyards. They're doing yard work. They're walking their dogs. This is where they're encountering ticks.
And so really, we have to better understand, and thanks to this information, we can, the risks and where they might occur.
Exactly. So a lot of studies in Canada and in the U.S., they focus on collecting ticks for what we call passive surveillance. And then it tends to be disconnected from the human experience, which we get through more medically oriented studies. And our goal here with this study is to look holistically from the tick bite through to the human experience, to put all the pieces together, to understand where people were when they encountered a tick, what they were doing, and then we can look at the tick itself. We can understand the pathogens that are in it, and then we collect medical information to try and connect all of the dots together.
What led you down this path initially, Melanie? Why did this study get launched in 2022?
Well, when we started our lab looking at Lyme disease in 2017, we were more focused on the microbiology. We were focused on the clinical manifestations. And we realized that Lyme disease, being what we call a One Health issue, it concerns environmental health, it concerns animal health, and it concerns human health. And it's really difficult to look at those pieces in isolation. So we can't get a full picture of Lyme disease. And that means that we can't really adequately solve it if we don't have all of the components. So, for example, in most cases of clinical studies that are happening, they don't begin at the time of the tick bite. So someone shows up to their medical clinic with some symptoms, and that's when they become enrolled in the study. And we thought, let's see this from a more holistic perspective. Let's go right back to the tick bite. Let's learn what we can about that tick that is often thrown in the garbage or flushed down a toilet. Let's get as much information about that tick as we can. It's carrying the code of the pathogen that is potentially making this person sick. So let's integrate that into the clinical picture and see if we can expand on our understanding of Lyme disease that then informs better diagnostics and also prognostic implications. So why are some people more devastatingly affected than others? Well, the answers to that might be in the types of strains of the Lyme disease pathogen that are being transmitted to them from those ticks.
I find it interesting, Melanie, that those who have been bitten by a tick would submit it to your lab for further study and research. Does that mean then that these ticks are easy to spot? Can we always find them?
That's a great question. The answer is no. We think we're seeing the minority of cases. So many people will show up to a clinic in the summer or fall, and they'll have flu-like symptoms, or they'll have a strange expanding rash, maybe on their leg, on their thigh, arm, and they don't know where that came from. But in the cases where people do find ticks, these can be immensely valuable to us. And what our study is also showing is that people are encountering not just nymphal ticks, which are known to be disease vectors. They transmit the Lyme disease pathogen, but they're encountering the adult forms. And the adult forms are actually having a chance to feed for a substantial amount of time. And some people will think that they would spot an adult, that they're not going to let this tick feed for 7 days. But in fact, we had a very long tail on that estimated feed time, which showed us that these ticks were attached to their humans for a substantial amount of time. So yes, in some cases, people are noticing the tick bite, and then they're having a chance to remove it. And that's really key to their prognosis, essentially, with this. If they can notice the tick before it feeds to repletion and drops off, they can remove it in good time. They can take steps to make sure that they weren't infected, so we can remove it carefully without, for example, damaging it. If you pinch the tick, then it has a chance to regurgitate more of its stomach content into that wound, and you don't want to do that. So you want to use a pair of fine-nosed tweezers if you have. Of course, the best case scenario is that you're carrying a tick removal kit in your backpack, because that gives you not just the tools, but that will give you a place to put the tick. It will give you a tick identification key, so you can see whether the tick that you removed from yourself is capable of transmitting Lyme disease, or whether there's a different set of pathogens that you should be worried about. When you remove this tick, you want to be cleaning that area thoroughly, and then considering your health after that. Monitor very closely. Do you have any signs and symptoms? Are you experiencing fever, an expanding rash? You can make decisions based on that, or you can seek medical care immediately. Even if you're not comfortable removing the tick, you can go to your doctor or urgent care.
One of the great mysteries to me as I just begin to learn more about ticks, bites, Lyme disease, etc., Melanie, is that some people will get very sick while others will not have any symptoms at all. Do we know why that's the case?
That is, I think, complex. It's something that we're still untangling as scientists in this space. But there's a couple of factors. I mean, one is the length of time between noticing the tick bite or experiencing symptoms and actually having intervention. So Lyme disease initially starts, because it is tick vectored, it starts locally in that skin where the tick has bitten, and then it disseminates outwards. And the farther it has traveled essentially in your body, the capacity for that infection to take hold in other organs, that can make it more difficult to treat. If you get Lyme disease and you stamp it out immediately, your prognosis is pretty good. If you are months into this and you've got pockets of these bacteria hiding in your body, that can be harder to treat. Then we also have to look at the type of strain of Lyme disease that you acquired. And certainly they're not all equally capable of mounting a virulent infection. So some of them are kind of self-limiting. They'll go into the skin. They don't seem to really escape from the primary site. Others are much better at overcoming your immune system, and they're traveling through your body, and they're setting up shop at secondary sites. They also are not necessarily that receptive at that point to standard issue antibiotics. Then we have to consider the person's immune system and any predispositions that they might have, and any gender or sex-based or comorbidity considerations that would change the trajectory of this disease. So it's a pretty complex issue, but it's a type of question that we can try to answer with the research that we're doing.
I think it's fantastic research, and I'm really glad we could talk more about it on the show this morning. Melanie, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Melanie Wills is the director of the G. Magnata Lyme Disease Research Lab at the University of Guelph, also in the Department of Molecular and Cellular Biology. Who knew? Well, I mean, I'm beginning to know more, but I'm pretty much at the early stages of my learning when it comes to Lyme disease. And as I said, we had that conversation on the show several weeks back now. Former volunteer firefighter in the Drumbo area getting treatment in Mexico, because not only is it difficult to get a proper diagnosis here in Canada, but treatment is, I mean, almost non-existent. So these are the struggles that folks are having. I wonder if you've encountered a tick that caused you concern, or you know anyone who has contracted Lyme disease. Maybe you can help us understand better. Would love to hear your story on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Others are much better at overcoming your immune system, and they're traveling through your body, and they're setting up shop at secondary sites. They also are not necessarily that receptive at that point to standard issue antibiotics. Then we have to consider the person's immune system and any predispositions that they might have, and that would change the trajectory of this disease. So it's a pretty complex issue, but it's a type of question that we can try to answer with the research that we're doing. Melanie
Wills is doing that research at the G. Magnata Lyme Disease Research Lab at the University of Guelph, where she is the director. And the latest research tells us that we might be dealing with some misconceptions, not only about what Lyme disease ultimately is or how it affects us, because we're having a whale of a time getting it properly diagnosed here in Canada, but also how susceptible we may be to tick bites overall. And again, I will insist, I don't mean to fearmonger. I'm only sharing the research as it is shared with us through the lab at the University of Guelph. But the bottom line is, you don't necessarily have to be hiking in the woods to get that tick bite. Could be just mowing the lawn, walking the dog, whatever the case may be. Loved the story I read earlier this week about the grandpa from Kitchener, who is next month in September running a 10-kilometer race in support of his 25-year-old granddaughter who has Lyme disease. So a shout out to 78-year young Richard Nancarrow, who's going to do that 10K to raise money for his granddaughter. when he does it in September. And even if you trace it back a little bit further, Richard's story itself is a pretty inspiring one. He only started running in earnest 10 years ago when he was 68 years young. But he had heart surgery and decided, well, I'm not going through this again, so I'm going to do the best that I can with the time that I've got to make my ticker stronger. And he took up running. And if you've ever done it, and I did for a while and gave it up, and I'm not sure I'm ever going back, but there is this thing they call the runner's high, that buzz that you get from it, the feeling like it can get rather addictive. And if you're going to get addicted to something, how about running and doing something that's good for your overall health? Anyway, 10 years ago, heart surgery at 68, says, I'm going to do better for me, and starts running. And now at 78, he's getting set to do this 10K in support of his 25-year-old granddaughter who has Lyme disease. She was diagnosed 2 years ago, had been working as a nurse at a hospital in Toronto, and all of a sudden starts getting these symptoms. Thought at first it was just a cold or flu. It just lingered and lingered and lingered, and ultimately diagnosed as Lyme disease, and everything changed from that moment on. So with luck, I mean, Grandpa Richard's 10K and the funds raised and the awareness raised can lead to better outcomes for people who are dealing with Lyme disease. Because, as I said, the inspiration for our conversation today with this lab at the University of Guelph, not just the new research they were sharing with us, but the conversation we had on the show about a month ago, a former volunteer firefighter in the Drumbo area in Mexico, getting treatment for Lyme disease because he can't get the treatment that he needs here. And that just led to so much response from you that the light bulb certainly went off. A lot of people are dealing with this, and it seems as though we are very much in the early stages of figuring out how best to deal with this in our medical clinics and our hospitals in this country. Speaking of this country, did you hear the youth employment, or should I say unemployment, numbers yesterday at recessionary levels? And the leader of the federal Conservatives thinks he has an idea why. We'll talk about that coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. You may have heard yesterday about the report looking at current youth unemployment, and yikes, in a word, would be a descriptor of that report. Since 2022, the youth unemployment rate has risen more than average, with an increase of 5.5%. And that takes us to levels typically only seen during recessions. We're talking about people aged 15 to 24. And the jobless rate typically rises about 4 percentage points during periods of weakness. But again, 5.5% increase, and a sign, a very visible sign of why our kids are having trouble finding work these days. The report's author suggests that the rise of artificial intelligence is a factor on the one hand, because absolutely artificial intelligence is doing the job, the entry-level job that many of our kids used to do. That said, federal Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre has his own idea as to what might be causing these high rates of youth unemployment.
As our young people have a quarter-century high in their unemployment, Mark Carney is expected to bring in a record number of temporary foreign workers to take the jobs of Canadian youth, driving down our kids' wages and their ability to earn a living. So while he drives up the cost of housing, preventing them from owning homes, he drives down their wages by allowing greedy multinational corporations to bring in low-wage foreign workers that take away Canadian jobs, including in high unemployment regions of this country. As our young people have a quarter century...
Oh, I thought Pierre Poilievre was going to tell us that twice there for a moment. So there you go. That's the take from the federal Conservative Party leader. And certainly on the demand side, the supply of workers, given the number of temporary foreign worker permits issued, would certainly outstrip the supply or the demand for the jobs, right? We've got a greater supply than we do demand. And so along with artificial intelligence being a factor, perhaps too, the number of people simply in the market looking for those jobs. We're going to keep it in this vein as we move into the flip side, something we do every Thursday morning at this time. Have a little bit of fun, and you can tell us about your job. This was inspired by an email I got from one of you earlier this week. And the idea is, in fact, the question asks me directly, did you always want to be a talk show radio host? Or did you see yourself doing something else entirely? And so I will happily answer the question and share a story or two, but maybe you'd like to share yours. What are you doing now? But what was it you had always dreamed of doing? Maybe those two match. Maybe they're worlds apart. Let's find out as we get into the flip side next on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. The flip side is what I like to call our palate cleanser. We do it every Thursday morning, 11:30. Have a little bit of fun, take a break from the heavier stuff. Although I don't know how we're going to have more fun this half hour than we did an hour ago between 10:30 and 11 with One for the Ages from Gary Chalk and Living Retired. Oh my goodness, did we have some laughs on that one? But this one maybe less about laughs and more about storytelling, sharing your particular story. Got an email earlier this week from Clinton, who writes to Mike at 570news.com. Hi, Mike. I was listening to your regular caller, Andre, after you had an in-studio conversation with Waterloo MPP Catherine Fife, and Andre had talked about Ms. Fife's future after politics, what her goals were moving forward. It got me thinking about my own journey, Clinton says, what I wanted to be as a kid, what I do now, and where I see myself heading career-wise. It struck me that this could be a great topic for the flip side segment. I'd be curious to hear what some of the Farwell Force regulars do for a living versus what they dreamed of doing growing up. And so that's what we're going to talk about on the flip side today. What is it that you're doing, and how close is it to what you thought you would be doing? And don't worry, I don't think your boss is listening, or maybe you are the boss and that is what you dreamed of doing. But it could be fun getting these stories about the dreams we had and what we ended up doing in some cases, because, you know, you got to put food on the table somehow. So even though you really wanted to sing and dance, you ended up, I don't know, making widgets or something because you could get that job and it provided a steady stream of income, the whole starving artist thing. Or maybe you did get into the artistry of things and realized that you don't have to starve to share your artistic talents, singing, dancing, drawing with the world. Who knows? And by the way, you don't have to be a Farwell Force member to participate in the conversation. But on that note, we are up to 149 members of Farwell's Force. Collectively, we are a force for good, a force for change, and a force to be reckoned with. If you're a regular listener, even not a regular caller, you are welcome to join the growing legions of members of Farwell's Force, 149 strong and counting. Anyway, Clinton's email goes on to say, did you always want to be a talk show radio host? Or did you see yourself doing, or do you see yourself doing this until retirement? Maybe transitioning into something like Grand Poobah? Clinton, I appreciate your email to Mike at 570news.com. I can see why you are a member of Farwell's Force in good standing, because you clearly listen. And I have said on many an occasion, the only way I will get lured into politics, and the offers have been made in the past, but the only way I'm going to do it is if or when somebody creates the role of Grand Poobah, and I can be the Grand Poobah of the beautiful region of Waterloo. Or if I had it my way, the city of Waterloo, because I think we should have one level of local government. And that's what I would do if I was Grand Poobah. But other than that, let's get to the matter at hand. Did I always want to be a talk radio host? No is the answer. But I did always want to work on the radio. Now, here's the thing. When I was a kid, I didn't think being on the radio was a real job. My dad, he had a real job. He went to work every day in a jacket and a tie, carrying a briefcase, and then he came home for dinner because my dad worked for a living as a teacher and vice principal and principal within our Catholic school system. He did that for more than 3 decades. That's what a real job was to me when I was growing up. So even though I always wanted to work in radio, and I wasn't even 100% sure I wanted to work on the air. I think I wanted to work on the air, but I wanted to work in radio, but it didn't seem like a real job. So what did I do? I went to school and I studied to be a teacher because that's what I thought was a real job. And I did that for a year. I apologize once again to the fine folks, families and students alike at Monsignor Doyle in Cambridge for the year that I completely bungled everything I could possibly bungle trying to work my way through leading a classroom of bright young minds. It didn't put the fire in my belly. I wasn't cut out for it. You teachers are made of way better stuff than I am or ever will be. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to try this radio thing because it's the only thing that really interests me. And here we are. Did I see myself as a talk show host? No, I did not. I saw myself as a music radio host playing rock and roll music if I could have my way, or being a sports broadcaster, hockey specifically, on Hockey Night in Canada. Clearly, neither of those things worked out. But you know what? I do get hockey nights in Kitchener, and I absolutely love them. One of my favorite places to be, October through April every year in Kitchener, in every other OHL market. I love broadcasting Ontario Hockey League games. And it just evolved, my career did, into this talk show role that I've been in now for just over 8 years. And frankly, I wouldn't have it any other way. I couldn't imagine doing anything else because I love this town. I love this town. I love talking, as you can tell. And so the opportunity to come into this studio, talk to you every day with a focus on the community that I absolutely adore, where I grew up. Come on with your coming on. Who's got it better than me? The answer is nobody. Do I see myself doing this until retirement? Maybe I'll get to that one later, but I really want to hear stories from you. What is it that you're doing today? And what is it that you had envisioned yourself doing? What was your dream job as a kid? What did you end up doing today? 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Want to hear your stories about the job that you are doing and the job it is that you once dreamed of doing. That's the conversation we're having on the flip side today. And let's begin with Grant. Now, Grant, hang on. Before you start, you know that listening to this radio show is not a full-time job, right?
Yeah, well, where I get my income, it only allows me to work 1 day a month.
1 day a month?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
where do you work 1 day a month?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
But
So when you were a kid, Grant, when you were a little Grant, what did little Grant dream of being one day?
I wanted to become a chef. You know, I went to Laurel Vocational School to take food services, and I went to the extent of going to Conestoga College to do some upgrading. Oh, wow, that was difficult. And then I also did some correspondence courses just so that I could get myself in there, but it never really panned out.
That's too bad. Why did you want to be a chef? What was it that interested you so much about that?
I guess just being in front of people, maybe. And I don't know if you remember going into Ponderosa Steakhouse.
Are you kidding me? Do I remember, Grant? I was practically a member of the Ponderosa Club. You betcha.
Where the owner would always come out and and talk to the customers. And yeah, that's.
You know what, Grant? Clinton asks in his email, if I see myself doing this, what I'm doing now, until retirement. If I'm not, and I'm giving you a little bit of the answer, I could see myself standing behind a bar pouring drinks for you. Like Grant's talking about at the Ponderosa when the manager would come out. But Grant always wanted to be a chef. It just never worked out. Chris, what about you? What are you doing, and what was it you had dreamed of doing?
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Chris.
First-time caller, long-time listener.
Oh, Chris, you know that I love my first-time callers. You're the absolute best.
I always wanted to say that. Right on.
Thank you, sir.
Well, when I was young, I didn't really have any aspirations. I wanted to be in the Army, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Then I got older and things changed. I was supposed to be in advertising, actually.
No kidding.
Got accepted at Laurier. I was going to go. I took a year off in between. And, I got into construction that summer, and I made boatloads of money, and I was buying all my friends on OSAP beer. And I was like, wow, this is all right.
I've heard that story before, Chris. I have.
Never looked back. Yeah, I still do it. Like 30 years later, I'm still in the trades. I'm actually kind of proud of my decision.
You know what? You should be. Now, if I may ask, and this is getting a little personal, but I've got other friends in the trades, and we're about the same age. So if you've been in for 30 years, how's the old body holding up, my friend?
I've had to change like my niche for a little bit, but it's okay.
Good.
It's all right. I've slowed down in a sense, but I haven't. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're methodical. You make sure,
Yep, I stay active as well. So I golf and ski in the winter, and so it all kind of helps balance everything out. And I am kind of blessed with good metabolism, so I got the body for it. If that makes any sense.
But listen, as a guy that doesn't have the body for it, it makes perfect sense. I know I can picture you in my mind's eye, Chris.
Excellent. Hey, I'll probably bump into you somewhere. I've been Kitchener for 50 years. So.
I look forward to that.
Hey, thanks. I'll be in touch, man.
Sounds good, Chris. Thanks for the call today.
Ciao. Great
to hear from you, a first-time caller to the show. And it's interesting when Chris talks about when he was younger. And I don't think I really did either. Like, it's not like I thought of what going to work every day would be like. But radio did always interest me. And for Chris, I said I've heard that story before. He thought he might be in the Army, then he gets a construction job, and all of a sudden he's making some good money, and all of his friends paying off their student loans. He's buying them beers at the end of the work week or whatever the case may be. I'll go back to my father, who spent 30-plus years in our Catholic education system doing great work, and I still run into so many of his former students today, and they tell me how great my dad was. I'm like, are you sure we're talking about the same guy? Is that the guy that used to discipline me? I deserved it. And you probably did too if you got on his bad side. Anyway, when Dad was younger and it was summer holiday time and you worked, he also was in construction helping Frewer Homes build houses way back when. And same kind of thing, right? Making some good money, lots of people doing it, just kept doing that, didn't pursue post-secondary education. My dad decided to do that, worked out very well for him. But lots of people get into it and say, hey, you know what? This is pretty good living. It's hard work, but it's worthwhile. And the next thing you know, you're putting food on the table. And just like that, they stayed with it, much like Chris, all these years later. So what was it that you once dreamed of doing? And what are you doing today instead? What's your job now compared to what you dreamt your job would be? Those are the stories we're taking on the flip side this morning. We look forward to your call on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. So when you were a kid, you see, you dreamed of doing a certain job. And then you grew up and you started doing what job? That dream job or something entirely different? Gary sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with airplanes, so I thought I would be a pilot one day, but that didn't turn out because it was very expensive. Then in my teens, I started to learn how to play the drums. So for almost 15 years, I was playing in bands, touring around, and was trying to be a rock star. That didn't work out either. But I've always been fascinated with buses, and I ended up being a transit operator for the last 18 years, and I absolutely love it. I wouldn't want to do anything else. Gary, love the story. Thanks for the email to Mike at 570news.com. Let's go back to the phones, hear more stories. Terry, good morning.
Morning, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you.
Good.
I'm a first-time caller.
You know, Terry, I love my first-time callers. Yes! Thank you, sir.
And I'm also recently retired after 60 years of working. So just turned 72. I will be 73 in December. And over the course of my working career, I've had several jobs, but always wanted to be into animal health, be a veterinarian. So after being in, I'll tell you a bit of a backlog so you can understand. During my younger years, after being a pin setter and a grocery bagger, I started working at a retail store. And this retail store sold sporting goods, specifically bicycles, and we sold a lot of them because being from Elmira into the Mennonite community. Now you fast forward 30 years. I went to school for animal health. I went to Centralia College, which now is I'm afraid it's been shuttered and dilapidated and it's no longer in existence. But I did get an animal health diploma and did well at that. And I thought, I'm going to go try to hit Guelph and see if I can go through for a vet. Got kind of tied up in some of the politics and some of the other stuff. Couldn't quite make it. Got married, had kids, and ended up staying in the retail for quite a while at the sporting goods store, on to Elmira Stoveworks, and then finally got into selling farm equipment. So farm equipment has a tie to the community as well as to my aspirations of being a vet. And so it's funny how things kind of come full round. But a lot of my customers in the old days at the bicycle shop got to know me from there. And when I would go to the farms and call on them selling them farm equipment, they'd say, "You're the guy that sold me a bicycle when I was 14. So there was a line of credibility that was established there, and it served me very well. The last of my working career was the last 20 years in manufacturing, and I worked for a company, Elmira, making agricultural equipment. And again, a lot of my customers came in and knew me from the bicycle days and from Stoltz days selling tractors. And again, there was a credibility established, and it served me extremely well.
You built some strong relationships.
Very, very strong, and especially in a Mennonite community where it goes a long way, okay? So although I never got to be a vet, I was in the field of agriculture, helping the communities, helping the farmers, and doing what they wanted to do. Now, I told you that story to tell you this story. My son, on the other hand, from the time he was 2, wanted to bang pots and pans and become a drummer. So we go through public school, we go through all the rest of this, and lo and behold, great in high school, he was given the job of resident drummer for the 5 years he was there. We sent him off to Humber. He did about a year and a half at Humber. He's now going to be 47. He's playing all the big. He's playing almost every night in Toronto, gigging. He's married, has a little granddaughter. We've got a granddaughter, Frankie. And he stayed the course. He never changed. What he wanted to do when he was 2 is what he's doing now. He's paying the bills. He's doing well at it. He's respected for it. And now he's also teaching at U of G in the percussion system. And, he's done exactly what I couldn't do. So I'm very proud of him doing that.
That's fantastic. Terry, thanks so much for sharing those stories.
No worries. Have a great day.
You as well, sir. Great to have you on the show today. And if I had time, but I want to get to more of your stories, I wanted to come back to that pin setter when you were a kid. I'll tell you what, the old bowling alleys, right? Mary Ann, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. It's Mary Ann here. I just want to say I would have loved to have been a nurse's aide in my younger days. And I did try nurse's aide out in I live in Melbourne, and I tried it out in our local nursing home in Brunner. And it just didn't work out for me because I couldn't handle it with my back. I had a bulging disc, and it just didn't work out. I tried restaurant work, and it was okay, and I didn't mind it, but it just didn't work out the way I wanted to. So now I'm doing childcare. I go to different homes, looking after children, and I just love what I'm doing. I'm not there totally for the money. I'm there for the love of the children. That these kids need somebody to look after them in our community.
You sound perfect for that job, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the call. There you go, from nurse's aide to restaurant work. And listen, if you've never tried restaurant work, get yourself some comfortable shoes, and that's just for starters. That is hard work. And now, because the children need someone to to be loved by and to look after them. And now Marianne's doing childcare. Love it. We'll take more stories of the job you wanted and the job you ultimately ended up getting as we continue on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Do you remember earlier today, we were talking, I believe, at 10 o'clock with our friends from Rangers Reach, and I mentioned that one of my coworkers had referred to me as annoying today. Well, just during that commercial break, one of my other coworkers, I'm not afraid to say this, I'll be honest with you, tell you what happens in the halls here. He said, I thought when you were a kid, you dreamed of growing up and being an a-hole. Good job. You've succeeded. What? This is... I try to be nice to people around here, and they wonder why I'm cranky. Listen, I've got to get you to the news center for an update, but I would love to hear... I've got Keith and Paul on the line that want to share stories of the job they thought they would have and the job they're currently doing. Would love to hear more. So if you can just hang on, we'll take this update from the news center and come right back with more of the jobs you have versus the job you always thought you would get on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Roger.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
The Talkback Hour, and that song signals open phone lines so we can hear directly from you. Make the call, start the conversation. We are here to entertain it. And I think we've got some holdovers from the previous segment when we were talking about the job that we're doing versus the job that we always thought we would do. Keith, thank you very much for waiting. Good afternoon.
Hi, Mike. I have to say I've really enjoyed the topics today, and I'm really glad that you got into talk radio. I think that you're a tremendous benefit to the station, and I wouldn't listen to it if it wasn't for you.
Oh, Keith.
However,
my heart. You're so kind. Thank you.
Enough of the brown nose.
Thank you. Yeah, get on with it, would you?
I am now retired, so I'm doing what I want to do, I guess. I'd love to be still working. But as a kid, I was influenced by my uncle, who was a Guelph police officer. And I hung around him a fair bit, and I just worshipped him. And I was so enamored by what he did, I wanted to be a cop. So as soon as I turned of legal age at 21, I walked into the local police force here, which was then just Kitchener, knocked on the chief's door and said, I want to be a cop. And if you remember the name Chief Heinrich, he was, you probably don't, it would be before your time. He was an amazing, amazing guy. And we talked and chatted, and I walked out as a policeman, got sworn in right then and there. And, it was nothing like I expected. It was horrible. They kicked you out on the street with absolutely no education. By that, I mean no police training. You walked with somebody and picked up their bad habits. And I could have got into an awful lot of trouble. I was quite disillusioned. I went from there into retail sales, and because I just wanted to see the positive side of life. And I loved retail sales, and eventually got into real estate, where I spent 30 years and loved it. It was far different than what it is today, and I only retired 10 years ago. But the people, the positivity, the solving problems, the actual helping people that were having issues, I wasn't just in it for the buck. I was in it for my life. And when I stopped doing it, I felt like my world had ended. And that's the danger of retirement. You stop, and then everything stops, unless you don't, unless you keep on trying to to stay active. So that's a story of my life. I accomplished, I guess, what I wanted to. I wish that police work was the same as it was then as it is now. The men and women that we have in blue are just I just think that they're the most amazing people in the world, from the chief on down to the cadet. And they work hard. They're dedicated. For the most part, they're great people. And I just wish there were more of them. And with the education, the advancements, and the teaching, and the learning, and the public relations, man, oh man, I take my hat off to them. I would still be there if it wasn't for, as they say, the way it was. That's it for me, Mike.
Keith, really appreciate
I love
it.
your show.
Thank you very much.
Your show, buddy.
Thank you. You enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy that retirement as best you can.
I sure will, buddy.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You bet. Great to hear from you today. Lots in there. But I love the way Keith brought it back around to what our police officers are doing today, how well trained they are, how extensive that training is because of what we learned. And look, I can understand completely where Keith was coming from. As a police officer, I've said this so many times, you are meeting people almost always at their worst moment. Of course, in real estate, when you're probably meeting them at one of their best moments, finalizing the purchase of that first home, that brand new home, what a difference. What a difference. Anyway, really well said all around. Let's go to Paul next. Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Great.
Listen, as a kid, I would say I liked to build things and I liked to fix things. I was always tinkering with something. My grandparents bought me a set of ratchet set and wrenches and whatnot. And I went home with this brand new set of tools and tore a motor apart to learn how it worked, and started from there. Now, like I said, I like to fix things. And one day, a little story here, this one of the neighborhood kids was riding up and down the street. And it was a dead-end street, so there was no traffic. He was riding up and down the street on a tricycle, and the wheel was just squeaking and squeaking and squeaking. So I stopped the kid, and I says, here, let me take a look at that. Couple of drops of oil, no more squeaks. The kid hated me.
What?
He loved that squeaking sound. Of course, the rest of the neighbors all liked it.
Gotcha.
So fast forward, as life goes on, you get into having to take jobs for the money. And I worked steel making for a long time. But I went back to fixing things, and I got my mechanic's license, and I fixed vehicles, and then I went into automotive research and development for 30 years.
Paul, how are we going to figure out how to fix you?
Oh, that's impossible. beyond that. But you know what I wanted to do?
What'd you want to do?
As a young person?
Oh, wait, I know, because you talk as much as I do. You wanted to be on talk radio.
No.
Oh.
I wanted to be a surveyor. And by a surveyor, I'm talking, like plotting out land and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about laying out cities. What I wanted to do was I wanted to go out in the bush and lay out things like hydro tower right-of-ways and things like that. Going out deep in the bush, with a pack and a canoe and your surveying equipment, and plotting out different things out in the bush on my own with nobody around to bother me. But
and nobody around for you to bother.
Yeah, that's just, but I'll tell you a little story about surveying.
All right, I'm already late for my break, my friend.
Very quick.
Okay.
This was many, many years ago in Guelph. They were trying to lay out the city of Guelph, so they got a big pot of water, and they got a couple of big servings of spaghetti, and they boiled it up in the water, and then they took it and they threw it up in the air, and when it landed on the ground, they say, that's the new map of Guelph.
Okay, Paul. I like Guelph. I get it. Maybe, listen, I know for certain that they use the region of Waterloo as an example of poor planning when they help students try to figure out how to better plan cities. But anyway, appreciate the little joke to finish it off as we continue with Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show today. Keith got me thinking about something I have to admit to you, and I'm going to, I promise, as we continue on the show today. It's 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We've been having fun today with some stories about the job we're doing versus the job we once wanted. And do we intend to continue doing this job until the end of our working days? Talkback is open to any other ideas you'd like to bring forward as well. As we go back to the phones for Doug, Farwell's Force member number 14. Good afternoon, Doug.
Good afternoon, Mike. How you doing?
Top shelf, my friend. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good.
Good.
Growing up, my dad was a heavy machine operator, and he would bring like 6-wheel tractors and backhoes and everything home for lunch and that. So I wanted to get into construction, but as it ended up, after my third year of grade 7, I went into a trade school, and they had classes for gardening and cafeteria, bakery. They had a restaurant class, and we would do like a full-service restaurant with, I don't know, maybe 4 booths, I think it was. And so I really liked that. I got into restaurants, started out doing like a fast food grill in a mall. Then I moved into a 5-banquet hall restaurant and got into mass cooking. From there, I went into a high-end steakhouse where, people were coming up in Rolls Royces and Jaguars and stuff like that. It was owned by a couple of Greek fellows. And in that place, after a couple of years, the maitre d' would take his holiday on a Monday. So the chef would move into the dining room on Mondays, and I would do the cooking. And then on Tuesdays, the chef had off, and I did that. And after a couple of children and getting married and stuff like that, I ended up going into factory work. Worked at a company in Hamilton making train cars. After a wildcat strike, I ended up losing that job. Ended up moving to Guelph. Got into a relatively new machine shop that was growing, and I spent 12 years as a machine operator. Then I spent 29 years as a production supervisor, and I loved that. Last week was my first anniversary of being retired, and I gained permission from HR to walk through the plant and see my operators and fellow workers, and the compliments and good job and everything else just blew me away, and it was an amazing feeling. I still feel it today, a week later. So, you do a job right and you get the respect.
Doug, that's a fantastic story. Do a job right, get the respect. You left an impression on people. I'm so glad you got that chance for the walkthrough a year after your retirement. And I'm also glad that you're retired. Sounds like you're enjoying retirement and participating in this show. Absolutely love it. On the note of retirement, Clinton's email that sparked this conversation today. Is this what you always wanted to do, be a talk radio host? Do you see yourself doing this until retirement? Full disclosure, transparency time. And the short answer is yes, but there's a backstory. Because I did a thing that I'm not comfortable doing at all, but I did it. And I don't think I did it very well. So maybe you can give me some pointers. I'll share the story coming up as we continue Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We've been talking today about the job that we have or the job that we did versus the job that we always thought we would do. Dream job versus real job, I guess, would be a way of looking at it. And when Clinton sent me an email to Mike at 570news.com and suggested it as an idea for the show, he asked, would I do this? Do I see myself doing this until retirement? Or would I perhaps choose a different path like Grand Poobah of the newly amalgamated region of Waterloo, for example? So here's the story. This is the straight goods, because there's only one way I know how to be with you, and that's honest. I don't know if this is something that I should be talking about publicly, but I'm going to, because we're friends like this. And I think... No, I don't think. I know I made a terrible strategic error, but nonetheless, here we go. And when Keith called earlier, just a few minutes ago, and he was so kind with his words about listening to the show and why he listens to the show and how he hopes that I stay here so he can keep listening to the show. I approached management earlier this summer, and I said, and this is not something that I do. I'm not good at it. I've had to do it a couple of times in my career. Not my favorite thing. Anyway, I approached management. I said, I think maybe, I don't know, like maybe we could talk about a little bit of a pay increase. Maybe I could have a raise. And so I planned this in advance because I'm not good at it. I made some little points for myself that I could talk about and my arguments in support of why I think I deserve more money. And here's the truth, just between you and me. Like, I would do this for room and board. And nobody gets into radio to get rich, just for the record. But anyway, I tried to make my case as best I could. And one of the things that I brought to my argument was comparators. I've been approached in the past about, hey, would you ever consider doing something else? I have this job opportunity that might interest you. So I used those comparators and saying, listen, this person asked me about this job, that person asked me about that job, and I stated the salaries next to those jobs to say, if they think I'm worth this much, maybe you think I'm worth this much. And so my manager, bless her heart, she's so much smarter than I am, and she kind of laughed. She said, you'd be great at that. And then she said, what do you want to do? Like, what are your goals? And then I was stuck because I painted myself right into that corner because she's so smart. And I said, well, if I'm honest with you, and I know this is not going to help my negotiating position at all, but I said, I'm doing what I want to do. Like this. So this is how bad I am at asking for a raise. I am doing exactly what I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. So I don't know that I'm going to get the raise that I asked for. But really, I'm grateful every day to come to this radio station, to have these conversations with you in the town where I grew up. So please, let's keep that between us. I don't mean to, peel back the curtain that far and tell you about my work life that much. I don't know if that's something I should talk about publicly, but that's what happened. We've all done it before. I'm sure you think you're worth a little bit more. You go ask for a little bit more. But I shot myself right there in the foot when I was asked in return, oh yeah, you'd be good at that. What does he want to do? What are your goals? Actually, this is my goal. If I could just, and I recognize this industry changes very quickly. And next week it could be a completely different story. But for as long as they're going to keep me here, paycheck be darned. I want to stay here. So if you got any tips on how better to ask for a raise if I ever do it again, I'll take them. But that's what happened here. I'm doing my dream job. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Let's get right back to the phones because they are active today. Ron, good afternoon. Hello, Ron.
Hey, Farwell. Sorry about that. I didn't hear the click over. You were asking about, what was I planning to, get into? I actually wanted to be, believe it or not, get into IndyCar engine mechanics.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I always liked the mechanics of engines and such, but I found out being in high school, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I ended up, working retail jobs, doing that and this, and I enjoyed them. But then I fell in love with the hobby of 3D printing, and now I am the 3D print operator over at CNC Labs.
Very cool.
Print farm.
I like it.
Yeah, so it comes full circle, I guess, because I'm also a tech head and I love tinkering with electronics.
There you go.
Yeah, so.
Way to go, Ron. Appreciate the story.
No problem.
Thanks. Great to hear from you today. It just takes me back when I was in high school, and if you're of a similar vintage, you'd remember this. We'd go to our guidance counselor. We'd have the 3 things that we wanted to do. I had teacher, police officer, and nothing else. And then you end up doing, like, that's so... And now today, with only 4 years of high school for our kids, I mean, who really knows at 16 what you want to do for the rest of your life? And if that's even going to work out for you. Working on Indy cars would be pretty cool, though. You remember the story I told you several weeks back now, but a couple of young women who have graduated out of the University of Waterloo and are now on the F1 circuit working on racing teams, helping ensure the cars are going as fast as they can with aerodynamics and all of this stuff. This is what they're learning through the engineering programs at UW. And to see young women in these roles, absolutely fascinating. Love to see it. Kyle, good afternoon.
Everybody knows I'm an adrenaline junkie, whether it's going to the racetrack at Mosport and trying to hit 270, 280 kilometers an hour or flying or whatever. But when I was a kid, I actually wanted to be a storm chaser and chase tornadoes when I lived in Oklahoma.
That's kind of cool. I like that idea.
You know, watching the movie Twister, and then that's what got it on. I think every time there's a tornado warning or siren in our house on, just so I could track what's going on in the area, if a tornado is going to come or not. That's how fascinated I was with weather and all that stuff. So there you go, Mike.
So you wanted to be a storm chaser. You still are an adrenaline junkie, and you drive courier for a living.
That's right. I will, honestly, if you put an engine behind me, whether it's a rally car or whatever, or open wheel car, I love anything that gives a rumble. It doesn't matter. Anything. I love just getting that adrenaline type of person. I like to live my life to the edge. So there you go, Mike. Thanks a lot.
All right, Kyle, appreciate that. You know, I saw Buddy post on his Facebook page the other day a set of Craigar rims, which I haven't seen in a long time because my tinkering days are long behind me. But I'm a gearhead at heart, and I'm like, wow, Craigar rims. Like, I'm glad they still exist. And then watching the evening news last night, Alex Pinto was on location in Baden at the weekly car show, which had its final one of the season, and just looking at all those classic cars, because that's what I used to be right into. I rebuilt engines. I installed trannies, like you name it. I know that's weird to even think about, and I can just see my beloved rolling her eyes right now. She's like, you won't even change the washer fluid these days. But I love that. It's still in my bones somewhere, and I can totally relate to what Kyle is saying. Like, give me an engine and one that rumbles. Thank you very much. I love that. Preston Paul, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike, number 45.
Hey, number 45. I was literally just this morning coming into work thinking about you because I haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, I've been staying low, just listening. And
okay. As long as you're okay. You okay? You good?
As far as I know, I am.
Attaboy.
Yeah, we had a tree come down on Tuesday in the backyard, one of our great big mother maples. So I had to take a nice little shout-out to Razor's Edge, who showed up yesterday morning at 8:30.
Great partner on this radio station, Razor's Edge. There you go.
Yeah, they did a great job. That tree is gone, and what a view I got now.
Attaboy.
Yeah, and just another thing. On August the 16th on PBS in Detroit, they showed Rush from 2011 on their Time Machine tour.
Oh.
Mike, I'm telling you, it was unbelievable. They did YYZ, and I've watched it twice since I recorded it, and it's just unbelievable. So anybody's into music, check out PBS on Saturdays after 8 o'clock. You know, not every Saturday, but usually one or twice a month they show something, you know, some kind of band or something like that. So, but what a concert that was in 2011, seeing Rush just go wild, and it was in Cleveland too. So it was quite the concert they showed.
Fantastic. I love it.
So you have a great day, Mike.
Thanks, buddy. Great to hear from you. You too. Bye-bye. Preston Paul, not to be confused with Paul from Preston. Paul from Preston holds down number 3 official member of Farwell's force, and Preston Paul is number 45. Speaking of Farwell's force, we are a force for good, a force for change, and a force to be reckoned with. Numbers 145 and 146, Tracy and Bill. Tracy sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. Bill is a 4th generation to live on our farm. As a small child, he begged his mom and dad, he begged his mom to not let his dad sell the farm so he could have it. He bought the farm from his dad as a young adult And to this day, we still live there. As his farming life evolved into various businesses, we run 2 businesses off the farm, which he is still passionate about: commodities and a trucking company. He will never retire and truly still loves what he does. I can really, I think anyway, Tracy, understand that. On the land, stay on the land, work from the land, and oh boy, never retire, eh? Wonder what that's going to be like. But good on you. Keep it. If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. Rob, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. It's been a while.
Robbie, English, it must be hockey season.
One more sleep, brother. Oh my God. I'm sorry I didn't get to see the practice games because I've been too busy. But man, alive, this week. Please excuse my GPS. So stoked for the weekend. Are you going to be at the fan day on Sunday?
I will be there. We are doing a 1-hour broadcast, noon until 1 at FanFest on Sunday.
Okay, so will you be there prior? Because I want to come and say hi in person.
If I go on the air at noon, I'll show up about 11:59. I don't want to put any extra time, Rob. No, I'll be there. Sure, I will for sure be there.
Okay, I'll track you down and we can do finally do a shake of hands. But yeah, excited. Go Rangers! New season, new team, new prospects. Let's see. It's gonna do it.
It's gonna be a great year.
Yes, sir.
All right, Rob. Great to hear from you. I'll see you at FanFest on Sunday. And if you're there, hey, make sure you stop by. You will not be able to miss the 570 News Radio tent and the short, bald guy beneath it. FanFest Rangers Sunday. And the preseason does kick off tomorrow night at the Memorial Auditorium. Rangers, Bulldogs. And tickets are just $5 at the door. Talkback continues on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. I love this email from Andrew to Mike at 570news.com. Subject line, Farwell's Force, member number 46. Mike, I was the starter of this amazing list. I met Andrew. I was still in the process of making those jokes. I think it started around, I've got, me and my 33 listeners or whatever, and slowly it grew. And I had said, you are one of my 45 listeners. And I met Andrew at the Scotland's Yard ball hockey event in support of the Waterloo Regional Health Network. And he said, I want to be number 46. And so when he did that, I just thought, you know what we should do? We should make this legit. We should fill up the list from 1 to 46 and just prove that we have at least 46 listeners. And I thought we might get to 46 by the end of the month or something. Anyway, it went very quickly. And just today, in fact, my good buddy Sean, who's a rock and roller, plays the drums. And the drummers in rock bands, we just added him as number 151 official member of Farwell's Force. Andrew's email, I always wanted to be a cop, but now I play in giant sand pits with life-size Tonka trucks. That sounds like a great job, Andrew. Appreciate the email to Mike at 570news.com. Back to the phones. Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you doing?
Oh, my gosh. Another guy that I was just thinking about, Preston Paul, like 10 minutes ago. I hadn't heard from in a while, and now here you are. Where have you been?
I was in Wasaga for 2 weeks.
Okay,
Mike.
That's fine, as long as you're okay. You feeling good?
I'm doing just fine.
Attaboy. Good to hear from you.
So, listen, I heard the unemployment rate for the, young people.
Yes, sir.
On your radio station, and I got to tell you something, Mike. I had a 14-year-old come over to my place yesterday. He bagged up 3 lawn bags for me. This is all backyard stuff. 3 lawn bags, pulled weeds, cut my back lawn, did raking. So there are jobs out there for kids if they're motivated, Mike.
Mark, I hear barely where you're coming from. Your phone kept coming in and out, but Mark said a 14-year-old kid came to his house and did a whole bunch of yard work for him. So there is work for these young people if they are motivated. So there you go. My nephew mows lawns in the neighborhood right now. He calls his little business Curb Appeal. I think it's pretty cool. And I think those opportunities do still exist for somebody willing to take the initiative and get out there and knock on some doors. Back to the phones. The guy that started all of this, Clinton, whose idea was the job you're doing versus the job you thought you would do. Afternoon, Clinton.
How's it going, Mike?
It's going great, thanks. How about you?
Oh, not too bad. So when I was a kid, I always loved playing with Lego and designing and building things. So I wanted to become an architect. But when I was growing up and going into college and university, Conestoga College didn't offer an architecture program at the time. So the only program was UW, and I couldn't afford that. And I also didn't have the grades to get into the university level. So what I was good at was woodworking. So I got into woodworking, built furniture, stairs, cabinets. Now I work in Kitchener. Actually, my bosses are fellow graduates of the same program that I graduated with. And I'm the senior project manager. And we do millwork for all the local area. We work anywhere from Windsor to Ottawa to North Bay is sort of our territory that we deal with.
It's not all that far removed from architecture. I mean, certainly still the same idea.
Yeah, it's very similar. Same idea, just on a smaller scale to some degree. And I'll probably stay with them for the rest of my career for the most part. I don't see myself really venturing out, maybe move into like a general manager position at some point, or maybe getting closer to retirement, I'll go back to college and teach. So.
Well, listen, you keep working in the same industry and get up to general manager, and we'll keep in touch as I keep working in this same industry and stay right here on a talk show, okay?
Sounds good. And I'll keep listening.
Thanks, Clinton. Really appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, talk to you later. Bye.
You bet. Bye-bye. Architecture. Oh, that one, I'll tell you, it gives me all the feels. My Uncle Roger, one of the best damn architects you'll ever meet. So thoughtful. The buildings that he would design, he just put such care into them, not only for how they placed or how they fit into our community, but how they served the people that would use them. Great admiration for one of the most famous Farwells to ever walk the streets of Waterloo Region. That's who Clinton reminds me of when he talks about architecture. Clinton, who started all of this today, is Farwell's Force member number 135. We are a force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. And when I added Sean the rock star earlier this hour, he sent me a message and said, how does one get on this list? I said, Sean, it's a real low barrier for entry. You ask, you're on the list. But we're having fun counting up the members of Farwell's Force. And one of these days, I'm going to call on you for a favor. You know what I'm telling you right now? One day, maybe you can do a favor for me. We're going to do good things together. If you want to be officially included as a member, card-carrying member of Farwell's Force, drop me an email. We're going to keep adding to 151 and go from there. All you have to be is a listener. I mean, if you're a caller and a contributor, all the better. But if you just want to be a part of this movement, we're still accepting applications, by which means you request it. You're in, baby. It's not an exclusive club. This is the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Turns out Yuta dreamed of being a court stenographer after being called to jury duty a few times in her 30s. Ended up being a cook until retirement. Yuta, thank you for the email to Mike at 570news.com. Let's go back to the phones here on Talkback. Rudy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I'm just off in a couple of weeks of holidays. That's great. But talking about jobs before, I started machining, trying apprenticeship in machining, right in 1979. But then the 1980, the recession started, and all the machine shops had something to do with automotive, so I was getting laid off. So after a while, I took a course at Conestoga College, retail meat cutting, which ended me up anyway. When I was 21, I started at the Guelph Beef Center, and it's a big place, and it was right beside the Guelph Correctional Center. And you actually had to drive through one of their gates, and the guard would let you in. So I started there, and I was working, and these other guys were there working beside you, and somebody said, yeah, just go work beside that inmate. I'm there, what? They actually had 60 inmates coming over every day to work with everybody.
Interesting.
Kind of free. Yeah, it was a little different. That was in 1981. They eventually cut that out. They closed the jail down, but I'm actually still there.
At Guelph Beef.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, of course, because the jail's closed down. How could you work in the closed down?
Yeah, then after it was called Better Beef. And, and back then they were doing like 500 cattle a day. Now they do like anywhere from 1,600 to 1,800 a day.
You know what, Rudy, appreciate the story, and we got to run because we're running right out of time, but some great stories. And isn't it just interesting when you take a moment to think back on, when I was a kid, I thought I would do this, but then you end up in something completely different. And so many times the different thing leads to another different thing, to another different thing, to another different thing. And here we are today still doing things and having conversations together, which I always enjoy with you. And so let's have more tomorrow, okay? Who's in? Let's raise our hands like we're going back to school next week. I'll be here. I'll be here at 9 tomorrow morning, and you are encouraged to join in. We're going to talk about the Good Samaritan that saved a local restaurant from a fire. You're going to meet the new guy on our Kitchener Rangers broadcast team this upcoming season. We're going to tell you about the guy from Elmira that ran 800 kilometers in 8 days. Our roundtable recapping and discussing the week's big stories and lots more on the show tomorrow. We'll come back tomorrow morning at 9. My name is Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.